The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter. Hello and welcome to Politics with GA. It's a few months to the general elections and the United States government has described Nigeria's 2019 general elections as a critical test for the country, the ECOWAS sub-region and the entire African continent. The United States Assistant Secretary Bureau of African Affairs Thibault Nagy Jr. stated this at a hearing to the U.S. House of Representatives Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, Global Human Rights and International Organizations. The title of the hearing was Nigeria at a Crossroad, the upcoming elections. Mr. Nagy Jr. said the conduct of the 2015 Nigerian general elections was a step forward for Nigeria's democracy, even though it was not 100% perfect. He stated that the contest resulted in Nigeria's first ever democratic transfer of power for a non-incumbent party, thereby increasing capacity and improving conduct of Nigerian democratic institutions and election bodies. 10 more opposition political parties have joined about 45 others operating under the aegis of Coalition of United Political Parties, CUPP, to work together towards removing the incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari and his all-progressive Congress-led government in the 2019 elections. This came up as CUP announced that 6 more political parties had tendered applications to join the Grand Alliance. The action of the 10 new parties came barely 1 week after 45 political parties signed the pact to work together. The former governor of Osun State, Prince Olagunsoye Oyinlola, who read a prepared speech at the event which took place at the Yaradua Center in Abuja, has asked President Buhari and the APC to drop from the race before they are disgraced at the poll. And according to him, the developments in the country were indications that President Buhari and the APC were not prepared for leadership. Some of the 10 new entrants in the opposition Grand Alliance as Save Nigeria Congress, the United Patriots, Reformed and Advancement Party, Alliance for Social Democrats, and We the People of Nigeria Party. I spoke with Mr. Tope Fasua, the presidential candidate of the Abundant Nigeria Renewal Party, about his ambition and his plans for the country if he emerges president in the 2019 elections. Mr. Tope Fasua, thanks for joining us on Plus TV Africa.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
What do you make of the political scene in Nigeria as we inch towards the 2019 elections? Are you happy with the quality of governance and the level of opposition?
Well, certainly not happy with the level of governance. I don't even think we have governance here, really. I mean, what's governance? Is about taking people to a higher level of living, kind of, you know, and actually, you know, you have to lead them and they have to be following you. So I'm not sure those who at the pack right there in front actually know where we should be heading, and therefore they're leading the rest of the people in the wrong direction. I mean, I was just turning the corner, coming this way. This is posh area. This is Victoria Island. And I looked into one of the gutters there, and it was full of debris and full of plastic. And I'm wondering, and these are simple things that, you know, someone should get, you know, and it's people that do the work. So to a large extent, I'm not happy with that. With the level of opposition, not bad, really. You know, people like me are stepping into opposition now. We have quite a number of guys coming into the fray, you know, leaving their professional jobs and so on, or running both side by side, you know, so we're going to see how it pans out. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we're stepping up means that we want something new to happen. But
is the opposition staying on the issues? Are they talking about the issues that really matter? And your party is not the main opposition party.
Well, I don't know what they mean by the main opposition party, really. Nigerians are trying to choose within the status quo, which is what is it now. and the status quo ante, right? When you should actually be throwing away the status quo ante and doing something new. You know what I mean? A couple of days back, I saw on WhatsApp, you know, a tanker fell somewhere in Lagos, right? And, you know, it's carrying vegetable oil.
Oh, yes.
And then they poured right there on the tarmac and drifted into the gutter. I mean, and we have people scooping stuff. Come on, you know. So the status quo ante is largely responsible for the status quo. All of them are the same. You know, let's mention the names. APC, PDP, we have guys running from one to the other. It really doesn't matter where you wake up. You can wake up on the other side. I mean, it's about where you get paid and all of that. And, you know, these guys are running rings around the people of this country. Nigerians don't need that for their own good. You see, but I also understand that, look, people have been so impoverished that they seem not to be able to think through this thing. So that means that people like us must help them to do the thinking. Yes. Exactly, sense of hopelessness. I mean, I heard you speaking before I came here in one of your interviews. You were talking about the fact that Lagosians have seemed to have resigned to some. No, it's terrible. Look, I mean, I spent almost 3 hours coming from the airport to this place. I mean, third mainland at 11 o'clock.
You could go to Ghana and come back.
I mean, that's the point. Yes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I actually flew down from Abuja within an hour or so. I was already here. Then you spend 3 hours on the ground, and it's all about fields. It's all about time wasting. It's all about hold-ups. You know, the other time, I mean, the last time I was in Lagos, I went back with an idea to do an article about Lagos and governance and what we understand. And mind you, that Lagos is the Alcyon kind of capital in Nigeria. Yes. That everybody's looking up, oh my God, Lagos, man, those guys are tight and those guys are good. You know, but come on, you know, on ground, it's terrible. Abuja is equally very dysfunctional. You know, I mean, like the difference is that we have a little bit more space, and you know, they spend quite a bit of money there. I mean, they spend billions and hundreds of billions every year, and you wonder, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I mean, it's terrible. Abuja, for example, someone showed Kubwa, you know, every median in the road in Abuja is a toilet, right? If you went there, if you actually came there, every median, which is supposed to be like the storm draining, is a massive. I mean, and I've been to Uganda, I've been to Kampala a couple of times, and what I saw, I noticed very quickly that, look, I didn't see people like urinating by the roadside and doing all that kind of stuff, you know, and I wondered, you know, and I found out why. And, you know, what they did in Kampala was to say that every filling station should have a bathroom at the back. Yeah. Maintain it, charge people a token to use it. It may not be more than 20 naira or 10 naira. Simple solutions. Now, you know, so we don't have governance in this country, truly.
You belong to a new crop of politicians ready to go. I mean, never in the history of Nigeria have we seen such a large number of people that aspire for the highest office in the land. And there was a time some of the presidential aspirants then were discussing the issue of a consensus candidate. They look at, they call them the alternative candidates, the ones that are not part of the behemoth of APC and PDP. How did that turn out?
Well, it didn't quite turn out well, you know what I mean? And just yesterday, one of the guys who organized it called me, you know, another meeting. Why don't we still come together? After all said and done, some guys said, well, we made a mistake. And I'm wondering, why would you walk into a mistake, right? You know, and the mistake, the simple thing that happened in that instance was, we commenced this meeting on the 29th of July or thereabout. And, you know, by the time they called us to come to the meeting, and you have to go there, you have to be humble, you have to find out what people are trying to do. Everybody was saying, oh, let's come back, let's come together, we need only one person and all of that. You know, so I went there, and then they said, look, within a month we want to choose. And I'm wondering, why do you have to choose in August, right? You know, why don't you stretch this? Let's create the buzz, right? Let's begin to debate among ourselves. Let's make this thing open. Let our meetings be on Facebook Live. You know, let people be able to identify with it. Yeah. Let's have the debate before the debate, the election before the election. And they said no. And the guy said, look, we're going to choose amongst ourselves. You know, so I insisted. I attended the second meeting. I insisted on what it was. You know, we're on this WhatsApp group together. And after insisting too much, the guy said, look, if you're not comfortable with what we're trying to do, because we're going to choose 2 weeks' time, you can leave. And I left, you know. So, and then they went and they chose. And I mean, 4 people voted for Fela, 3 people voted for King Sammy. Come, you can't impose that, right? Yeah. You can't impose that on Nigerians, you know, because there was no buy-in. And I wonder why we were young people, and there we're trying to do things in a funny way, you know. I thought we should be very transparent in our
people
dealings.
have pointed to the fact that,
Yeah.
I mean, error in judgment, that if young Nigerians, if forward-looking Nigerians can organize themselves and choose a candidate amongst themselves.
Well,
so
that tells you something.
Why should 200 million people trust you? Yeah.
That means it's not about the age, it's the way you think. And so that's why I tell people that, look, all this idea of just give us one person, if you guys can come together. It's harebrained, right? It's harebrained. It's not strategic in nature. It's lazy, you know, because you're trying to reduce it to the binary option. You know what I mean? Like it's either APC or PDP or one other. You know, I mean, I tell people, like, look, if I had to reduce Nigerian problem to a mathematical equation, it's not a linear equation. It's some sort of quadratic trinomial equation with some sort of lemma, and that's what they call lemma in mathematics. Although I'm an economist, right? But a lemma is an unsolvable riddle, right? So we've got a few unsolvable riddles there. So you have to think, you know. So and again, most importantly, that the problem of this country is not one that one person can carry, right? Imagine if it was just one person, so-called, it's young, it's vibrant, it's this, it's that, you know. It's going to be so easy to cage that person, right? Either the security services are caging the guy, or is making one mistake and someone is blowing it out of proportion. So that's what is called concentration risk. So in terms of risk management itself, it's a no-brainer. You know, you don't have, now that there are like 20, 30, 40 people running all over the place, granting interviews, you know, talking, holding rallies, you know, holding town hall meetings. You don't know how to track them. And that is how revolutions are made, because something is going to, like, you know, click somewhere, and people are going to start thinking.
Now tell us, Mr. Tope Fasua, why do you want to be president of Nigeria?
Because Nigeria is adrift, you know, because I don't like being in a place where there's so much chaos. Nigeria is full of chaos. In fact, I was reading somewhere, someone in South Africa was given, in the South Africa fire, what's it called? Maybe fire service or so, you know, and it was saying that, look, it's either you guys get organized like Botswana, right? As, you know, civil service, get organized like Botswana, or you become chaotic like Nigeria. And that was on Twitter.
Point.
That was on Twitter, you know. And I tried it. So see, I don't like being in a place that's chaotic. I don't like knowing something and not sharing what I know. Everything I know, I throw it out there. I've written loads of articles in my time. It's not about how things are occurring to me. I realize also that, look, the best way to learn is to teach, you know. So I dump it because I know new ideas are going to come.
But why the
and this place is another. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, because Nigeria doesn't have any problem at the local level, at the state level. We have a problem with the conceptual structure of this country.
We do have problems at the local level.
We don't.
I mean,
a lot of those
when you were driving to the studio.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the work of the local
If the federal government,
take care of drainage.
If the leader doesn't understand where its people should be going, the state government can understand. You know, if the leader doesn't understand, if the president doesn't understand where his people should be going, and doesn't know how to drive it down, yeah? You know, so listen, the kind of problems we have right here now, for example, for two reasons. Number one, the guys at the local level are emasculated by the state, right? So if you tell me, go and start at state, at a local government level, I have to be subservient to some state governor. It's a guy, it tells you when to have an election or when not to have an election and all that stuff. If the guys at the state level are also complaining that, you know, the structure of the sharing formula is not favoring them and all of that, and then there's these 68 items on the list and so on. You know? And so the only place where you can actually get something going, look, what we need now is a very positive disruption of the system. And you can only disrupt it even with your ideas, whether you become president or not, right from the top.
Talking about disruption of ideas, your manifesto is tagged the revolution of ideas.
Absolutely.
What are some of these ideas that you have to move Nigeria forward, and what are your plans to execute them?
What's
your
second
plans to execute this?
Oh, plans to execute them. I mean, everything is embedded. I won't even throw an idea out except there was a plan to execute them. For example, let's talk about the plan first. I mean, it's all about money, right? It's all about where do you find the money, right? You know, I did business in the UK for about 8 years. You know, I knew what it takes. And so in the UK, what you do is if you're running a company, you know, every year you have to do your company house returns. And when you do your company house returns, the first thing they ask you when you go there is, where's your tax clearance? You know, it doesn't matter what kind of tax you're paying, but they need your tax clearance. They want to see your payee, your NI for your staff.
Yes.
You know, everything has to be kosher, right? And then on that basis, they give you your company. And you can't run a company without having a company returns, because every company has a regulator. So your regulator is going to come like twice or thrice a year and going to say, okay, where's your stuff? And if you're not there, they close you down. And in a place like the UAE, where I later moved to do business, I'm still there. You know, what they do is, if you can't get these two things sorted out, they close your account. So if, in the CAC, less than 10% of the companies that are registered in the Corporate Affairs Commission bother to do their company house returns. We have a company house in Abuja, CAC. They don't bother. It's only the guys that are looking for government contract. You should do your company house returns. If you're paying minimum tax, and if you do that, we can actually begin to double to triple company tax here. We don't collect CGT here, capital gains tax. People sell houses worth billions, they pocket the money. Are you kidding me? 26% in the UK on your profit. In Nigeria, the law is there, 10%. But nobody takes it. I've asked people in the house, in FRN, say, oh, it's such a difficult tax to administer. Administer is all the same, you know. So look, there are so many. Look, I attended one conference one day organized by the APC. It's an economic conference, the only one they ever did try to do. Later on, we knew that they weren't serious people. And they were complaining, everybody was complaining about how there wasn't money to run the budget. We could diversify into agriculture. We don't have the money. And, you know, it was in plenary. And it was question time. They recognized one lady in front of me. She's white, you know. She was white. And she stood up and said, you know, I've been hearing you guys talking about how you can't fund your budget and all of that. Nigeria is the only country I've been, and I've been to a few countries in my time. Nigeria is the only country I've been where you don't get fined for overspeeding. And said, how then do you intend to fund your budget? So listen, if you organize, oh my God, if you drank and drove in this country and the policeman saw you, they'll be like, man, this guy, you're too much, man. You know, I mean, what did you remain? You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, we're living in some sort of dark ages.
I mean, we could have an entire program about the problems of Nigeria.
Yes. No, I'm telling you how to fund it, right? You know, so it's about how to fund it. You know, this is money. When I see all that chaos, I see the need to organize this chaos and make money from it.
But you're not going to work alone. You're going to work with Nigerian civil servants.
Right. You're going to work with it. It's easy.
And then your critics will look at you and say, look, you don't have that political experience. So how do you plan?
In fact, you don't need that political... Look, if you had political experience maybe in the UK or in the US or in somewhere in Europe or South Africa, yes, and you brought it to Nigeria and it could work, great stuff. If you're talking about political experience from Nigeria, it's useless. You know, I could look at any of them in the face today and say, look, you've been wasting our time. You know, because again, that's what I'm saying. I mean, look, people, that's like, if I went into the Senate or the House of Reps today, and apologies to everybody that's running for that position, I got some of them in my party, you know, but if I went for that, the next thing is after a few months, you know, I get this alert, right? You get the alert, 100 million, 200 million comes to your account. You won't tell anyone. Everybody has problems to solve. The moment you spend that money, you're in. And so you cannot, so look, I'm crazy enough to say, look, I'm ready to let all of that go because something needs to shift in this country. And I've got crazy ideas. I've got these ideas as well. Number one, you know, in the area of like education, I have a belief that we are now in so much deficit in terms of developmental deficit. Look, Gbenga, Nigeria is the basket case, right? The next thing in this country, with all the way things are going, in 10 years' time, this country probably will be taken over by some foreigners, and you know they're like, we can't manage this space. That's what we're saying. We cannot manage this space, whether in terms of security, in terms of environment. We can't manage this space. So we have this huge developmental deficit, and I believe that our students in higher institutions and tertiary institutions should begin to get involved in creating real solutions. So, for example, that if you're studying civil engineering in university, your project, your yearly project or semester project should be about building roads, right? Building small roads. You put them together in teams, you know, you give them the materials, because we need that 5 million people who are in tertiary institutions to begin to impact on this country wherever they may be found. In practical stuff, exactly. So that's going to, like, in a systemic way, affect education, affect, you know, the infrastructure sector, and also begin to get these guys to have something on their CVs when they're leaving, you know what I'm saying? So those are the kind of ideas. I also believe that Nigeria should be growing at 15%. People say, oh, it's not going to be possible, but then I did the research, found out that in the 50s, in the part of the 60s, 70s, the U.S. economy was growing at 18%, 12%, 15% in some years, you know. So who said, this is a toddler economy. Nigeria is this kind of toddler economy. At 58 years old, we're still in primary school, because an economy should grow from primary product to secondary product to tertiary product.
What would drive this growth, this 15% growth that you mentioned?
Like, for example,
what's your economic blueprint?
Yes. Oh, well, okay, fine. You know, first of all, the first thing you have to do is to say, you know, you have this idea of what you want to do, right? You know, and look at 15% to grow. Then you now begin to look at the different sector, all right? So for me, I think in terms of, first of all, I think in terms of, number one, we need to take science into our Greek, using the universities. We need to look at the environmental sector. This is going to drive the 15%. We can create 3 million sustainable jobs in the environment in this country tomorrow. All these gutters, all these places need to be fixed. The country needs to be beautified. The third mainland bridge needs to be painted and retouched every other month. That's how jobs are created, and the jobs are here. And when you do that, tourism is going to come. Listen, we want to drive, one of the key things, we want to drive...
80% of our foreign exchange earnings is from sale and proceeds of crude oil. Where are we going to get this money?
There you go. No. Wait. You know, when I was saying where do we find the money, I didn't mention crude oil. Because crude oil is a myth. Right? Today, crude oil is tending towards $50, right? If you take $50, multiply by 305 naira, that's 15,000 to 150 naira, something like that. 15,000 naira, right? When you, and that's a barrel. A barrel contains 159 liters, right? So per liter of crude oil is about 95 naira, this last time I checked, right? At $50, right? However, do you know that palm oil is much more expensive than crude oil? A liter of palm oil, 4 liters of palm oil today you buy on the streets about 2,500 naira. That means that 1 liter of palm oil is 625 naira. So what are we talking about crude oil? The reason why crude oil was elevated to that position in this country is about laziness, endemic and pathological laziness by the people who run this country. They want to just sit down, you're sitting in NNPC, you're not adding any value to the crude oil sector, then you just see money, 2 billion going into your JP Morgan account, and you think that you can spend it anyhow. No, it doesn't work that way. You're not adding any value. We can't produce a drill bit in this country. If the international oil companies and the oil servicing guys, if they packed all their stuff today and say, look, we're not doing this anymore, I mean, we can't drill one barrel of crude oil. So it's a big myth
on the nation that
absolutely
in over 50 years since they discovered oil in Olobiri, knowledge transfer.
No knowledge transfer. Let me say, sir. Let me say, sir. Two things I'm going to say. That look, the real knowledge transfer, we have to look. Nobody's going to give you the knowledge on a platter. Right? So you have to find the knowledge yourself. And I'm saying, for example, that we should be the ones developing that knowledge from our universities. For example, I believe, look, the only refinery in any university in Nigeria is in ABU, all the way in Zaria. There's no refinery in Uniport, none in Niger Delta University, none in Federal University of Toke, none in all of those universities that are very close to those. Why can't we be refining 100 barrels of crude every day in our universities? You know, so that's the way it is, you know.
The coalition of political parties and quite a number of presidential aspirants did sign a peace accord in Abuja yesterday saying that regardless of the outcome, they will accept elections, no to post-election violence or any violence of that type. Two questions here. Are you confident that the process would be free and fair? Do you have trust in INEC to be an unbiased umpire? And the security setup, from what you've seen so far, do you think elections will be?
So, I mean, it's great to sign a peace accord, and, you know, we're part of that, you know, and let there be peace, right? But I kind of have more than 70% trust in INEC because I've interacted with them over time. I see that these guys are trying to do the right thing. They're really struggling.
That's a pass mark.
That's a pass mark. But I don't have much confidence in the ruling government, right? And there's one thing going on now whereby, through the BON, the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria, and the NEDG, and one other sister station, or one other station, they went and chose 5 people to debate. And this election is meant to be about a debate. Now, in 2015,
but in their defense, they did open a portal, and they said, please
It was opaque. It was opaque. People have opened portals this time around, right? When you click, you can always go to where you say, oh, how many people have voted? What's the vote doing? Then that gingers you up. It was dark. And I noted then when our people complained, I said, look, I think this is going on because these guys want to be able to arbitrarily choose. Mind you, in all of the portals that have been open, all of the polls, our party have always come 4th position, right? These guys have deliberately screwed up this instance, and we are saying to them, we've written them today, they will not have that debate, right? They should not have that debate. And I've also written to INEC to let them know that this is the beginning, this is the number one, exactly, no fair representation, no level. Gbenga, we had about 14 parties contesting the last time. All of them were made to debate. All of them were invited to the same debate. And 11 of them showed up. You know what I'm saying? In 2015, in 2011, about 5 parties debated. You know, out of about 18. In 2003, 9 parties debated. Out of about 20 in 2003. Now we have 90 parties, and someone chose 5 people to debate because they think the rest of us are here to kid. These people don't want this country to get better, but it will get better whether they like it or not. And that's what we're standing on. So the government, it's the one that has problem. People have said that this government will not want to quit even if they lose an election, but we're going to ensure that they leave and that we're going to lose that election, and then they will have to leave. We cannot be in so much impunity with so much fraud going around, and you know, you're kind of sitting on the people. It's unacceptable.
Like you said, our prayer is to make this country better. Mr. Tope Fasua, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Great stuff, Gbenga. Thank you so much, bro.
Workers at the National Assembly, under the auspices of the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, have begun their 4-day warning strike. The workers stormed the entrances to the National Assembly complex in the early hours of Monday to barricade the gate and prevent entry. More security operatives have been deployed to manage the situation. For not giving concrete reasons for his failure to assent to the Electoral Amendment Bill, a section of the House of Representatives have begun to explore the possibility of overriding President Muhammadu Buhari's veto. While declining assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill for the 4th time, President Buhari said it was because it was too close to the 2019 general elections to change the rules of the games. The chairman of the House Committee on Ethics and Privileges, Mr. Osai Nicholas Osai, maintained that the reason given by President Buhari for denying assent to such an important bill was not convincing. Mr. Osai, who is from the People's Democratic Party, however, explained that the final decision on the matter would be taken when the issue is debated on the floor of the House. Madagascar would on Wednesday head to the polls for the 2nd time in 2 months to decide the winner of the presidential elections runoff. The vote pits 2 former presidents, Marc Ravalomanana and Andry Rajoelina, whose rivalry had dominated politics in the Indian Ocean island for 4 years. Campaigning for Wednesday's elections had been personal, with Mr. Rajoelina dismissed his rival as an old man who should retire and go milk his cows. Ravalomanana has also cast his rival as a destroyer and denounced his provocations. The British Prime Minister, Ms. Theresa May, has warned members of the Parliament that holding another referendum on the EU would break faith with the British people. Former Prime Ministers John Major and Tony Blair are among those urging a new referendum if members of Parliament cannot agree on the way forward. The Prime Minister argued that it would do irreparable damage to the integrity of our politics and would likely leave us no further forward. Last week, Prime Minister Theresa May called off a Commons vote on a Brexit deal, admitting it was likely to be heavily rejected. And that concludes Politics with GA for today. Thanks for watching. I'm Gbenga Aborowa. See you next time. The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues